Have you ever met someone who just can't sit still? Someone who starts a project, an argument, or an adventure before anyone else has even finished their coffee? That's Aries. They're not here to tiptoe through life. They crash through the door, head first, heart blazing. And if you're the kind of person who needs 5 business days to make a decision, buckle up. Aries will drive you crazy, and you'll probably drive them crazy first. See, Aries isn't just a sign, it's a force. They live on instinct, ruled by Mars, the planet of war, action, and raw energy. They don't do slow and steady. They do now or never. Everything in their world is urgent, immediate, and fully alive. But with all that fire comes a flip side. Aries may be strong, but they're also reactive, and some things they just can't stand. That's what we're diving into today. In this video, we're counting down 12 things that absolutely drive Aries crazy. If you're dating an Aries, friends with one, or just trying to survive one in your group chat, trust me, you'll want to take notes. And if you are an Aries, well, get ready to feel deeply seen. Before we jump in, make sure you subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments if any of these sound like you or someone you know. Your sign deserves to be understood, not just stereotyped, and this channel is here to keep it real with every zodiac truth. Now let's get into the first 2 reasons that make Aries go from chill to furious faster than you can say calm down. Number 1, moving too slow. This one sounds simple, but it runs deep. It's not just about walking slowly or taking forever to get ready, although yes, that will absolutely get under their skin. It's a deeper issue of tempo, energy, and urgency. Aries lives in a fast-forward world. If you're operating at half speed, they feel like they're being forced to swim through molasses, and they don't do well when they feel stuck. Start with something basic. Imagine an Aries waiting on you to choose a restaurant. You say, I don't know, I'm good with anything. Then you list options. Then you change your mind. Then you start a story about how Thai food reminds you of your ex. By this point, Aries has either ordered alone or driven off in silence. Not because they're rude, but because you're killing their momentum. See, Aries doesn't experience time the way others do. To them, delay feels like betrayal. It feels like the world is pulling them backward, holding them down. When you pause too long, you're not just being careful, you're interrupting their life force. This also applies to emotional responses. If they open up about something and you take a long time to react, or you respond with something overly cautious like, let me think about it, they read that as a lack of passion. Aries wants your heart now, not when you've had time to process it through 17 filters. In conversations, this becomes even more obvious. Aries people tend to interrupt, finish your sentences, or jump to conclusions, not because they're impatient jerks, but because their minds are sprinting. If you tell a long-winded story that takes 5 minutes to get to the point, they've likely already zoned out or moved on. They crave directness, clarity, spark. Think snappy banter, not bedtime story. And in professional situations, don't even try to slow them down with red tape. Aries thrives on initiative. They don't want to wait for 5 levels of approval to execute a simple idea. They want to pitch, plan, and pounce. If your workflow requires 20 meetings to approve a font, Aries is already looking for a new job. Even in friendships, it matters. Aries is the one texting, be ready at 7, and showing up at 6:55. If you're still in a towel at 7:30, they're not amused. And if this becomes a pattern, that's when they start pulling away. Not because they don't care, but because they feel disrespected. Time to Aries is fire fuel. If you waste it, you're draining their energy. Now let's flip it. What actually works with Aries? Action, movement, boldness. Say what you mean. Make a plan. Stick to it. Even if you get it wrong, Aries will respect the effort. They value people who try, who move, who show up with energy. That's their language. But if you really want to make an Aries lose it, combine slowness with control. And that brings us to our next big trigger. Number 2, micromanaging them. If moving too slow is like stepping on the gas with the brakes on, then micromanaging is like grabbing the wheel while they're driving. Aries is wired to lead. Even if they're not in a leadership role, they want to own their actions. They want to make decisions, solve problems, figure things out for themselves. When you hover, nitpick, or question their every move, you're not helping. You're insulting them. Let's say you're working on a project with an Aries. They come in hot with ideas, big moves, bold strategies, and you say, maybe we should do it this way instead. Or worse, let's double check with everyone first. Instantly the air changes. You might think you're being careful, but to Aries, you've just challenged their instincts. That's like telling a cheetah to slow down so you can draw a map. It kills the thrill. Micromanagement makes Aries feel boxed in, controlled, infantilized, and nothing makes them react faster or louder. They'll start pushing back, getting defensive, or shutting down. And once you've crossed that line a few times, they'll stop trusting you with their real ideas. They'll do the bare minimum, or they'll ghost entirely. This is especially true in romantic relationships. Aries doesn't want a manager. They want a partner. They want someone who trusts them to handle things, even if they stumble now and then. If you constantly correct how they drive, how they cook, how they talk, how they text, they're not going to adjust. They're going to walk away, or explode, or both. The irony? Aries can be bossy themselves. They love to lead, to take charge, to offer their opinions. So why can't they handle the same treatment? Simple, because it's not about power. It's about respect. Aries respects confidence. They admire strong-willed people, but they have to feel like the control is earned, not imposed. And it has to come from a place of shared fire, not cold criticism. If you need to give feedback to an Aries, do it like this. Wait until they've cooled down. Be honest, but brief. Start with respect. Say, I know you've got great instincts. I just wanted to add this thought. Keep it simple. Don't over-explain. Don't pile on. Let them digest it and come back to you. Trust them to respond, and they will. Push them in the moment, and you'll just trigger the war reflex. In the workplace, this is critical. Aries makes a great employee when they are trusted. They want to be told what needs to be done, not how to do it. Give them a mission, then let them run wild. You'll get speed, creativity, and commitment. But the moment you start micromanaging, you lose their fire. Same goes for parenting Aries children. If you try to force them to color inside the lines, they'll break the crayons. But if you let them explore, fall, and get back up, they'll surprise you with how fast they grow. Aries doesn't want permission. They want possibility. Now, some people hear this and say, well, that sounds exhausting. Aries sounds impossible to deal with. But here's the truth. Aries is not impossible. Aries is intense. And when you understand what drives them, you realize it's not about ego. It's about energy. They just need room to be who they are. Fast, fiery, and free. And when you give them that space, they'll give you loyalty, passion, and unmatched momentum in return. So whether you're dating an Aries, working with one, or are one, just remember, slowness and control are not neutral behaviors. To Aries, they're like pouring water on a fire. The spark fades, the frustration builds, and eventually something explodes. Now that we've tackled those two huge Aries triggers, you're probably wondering, what else pushes their buttons? Trust me, we're just getting started. Number 3, being passive-aggressive. If Aries had a motto, it would be, say it with your chest. There's no room in their world for half-truths, veiled insults, or icy silence. They are the definition of direct. They don't sugarcoat, they don't beat around the bush, and they certainly don't appreciate it when other people do. Imagine an Aries walks into a room and senses something's off. You're quiet, giving short answers, maybe slamming cabinets a little too hard. They ask, what's wrong? And you say, nothing. That's the kind of moment that makes an Aries want to scream. They'd much rather you explode than pretend everything's fine when it clearly isn't. Passive aggressiveness feels dishonest to Aries. It feels manipulative. To them, it's like someone playing a mind game instead of just being real. And Aries doesn't do well with games. They don't want to decode your feelings. They want you to say it, shout it, spit it out, now. This applies at work too. If you're unhappy with something and you go behind their back instead of confronting the issue directly, you've just lost their respect. Aries may not always react calmly to criticism, but they do respect boldness. If you call them out straight up, they'll probably argue. But deep down, they'll respect you for having the guts to speak. In romantic relationships, passive aggressiveness can be fatal. Aries wants passion, not politics. If they feel like their partner is playing emotional chess, punishing them with silence, giving sarcastic compliments, or making vague comments like, "It's fine, just do whatever you want," that's a quick trip to a fiery meltdown. And here's the thing, most people who act passive-aggressive don't mean to. It's often a defense mechanism. But Aries doesn't see the nuance. They see the behavior, and it reads as cowardly. They'd much rather deal with anger than avoidance. Anger they understand. Anger they are. But subtle emotional withdrawal, that's just confusing and infuriating. One Aries woman described it like this: "I can handle yelling, I can handle crying, but if you shut down and expect me to read your mind, I'm done. I feel like I'm in a fog and I don't know where to go. I need realness." If you're close to an Aries and you find yourself bottling up feelings, try this instead. Write it down, then say it. Even if you're scared, even if you stumble, Aries values bravery. They'll take raw over rehearsed, honest over polite, real over nice every single time. And remember, Aries doesn't hold grudges the same way some other signs do. They blow up, they cool down. What they can't tolerate is the slow simmer of resentment, the tension that builds without anyone naming it, the smile that hides a grudge. That kind of energy feels toxic to them. Now let's move to another source of Aries frustration, one that often goes unnoticed because it's not always loud or dramatic, but it cuts just as deep. Number 4, delayed responses or emotional unavailability. Let's paint a scenario. An Aries sends you a long emotional message. Raw, unfiltered, passionate. They're opening up. They're being vulnerable. And then you take 8 hours to reply. Or worse, you read it and say nothing. Or even worse than that, you answer with one-word replies like "okay" or "IDK." Congratulations. You've just given an Aries a full-blown emotional panic attack followed by rage. Aries may be strong, but emotionally, they live in real time. They feel things as they happen. When they share something, they want a response that feels alive, not delayed, not cold, not robotic. A slow or half-hearted response isn't just annoying, it makes them feel ignored, unimportant, or foolish for opening up in the first place. This isn't about being clingy. Aries actually values independence a lot. They don't need constant texting or coddling. But when they reach out with heart, especially in moments of conflict or vulnerability, they need to feel like the other person is present. Telling them, "I'll deal with this later," is like throwing water on their fire. They'll either burn up in frustration or shut down completely. And it's not just about timing, it's about energy. You can reply fast but still feel emotionally cold. Aries wants heat, engagement, authenticity. If you're always giving them May energy or answering like you're half listening, they'll lose interest fast. It's not about the words, it's about the vibe. In relationships, this can be the beginning of the end. Aries might tolerate a few slow replies, but if they feel consistently deprioritized, they start to close off. And when an Aries closes off emotionally, it's hard to get them back. Their love runs hot, but once it's gone, it's gone. If you genuinely care about an Aries but need space, that's okay. Just say that. "Hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I want to be here for you. Can we talk later?" That kind of message works magic. It acknowledges their need for connection while respecting your boundaries. But silence, coldness, vague distance, that will make them spiral. One Aries guy explained it like this: "It's not about the response time. It's about feeling like I matter. I could wait 6 hours if I know you're busy and care. But if I feel like I'm just not a priority, that kills it." So if you love an Aries, try to be present with them. Match their urgency when it matters. You don't need to mirror their speed 24/7, but when they're raw or excited or vulnerable, show up. Be in the moment. Let them know you're there. That's what they crave most, engagement. Not just physically, but emotionally, energetically, urgently. And if you're an Aries watching this and nodding like, "Yes, exactly," you're not alone. You're not too much. You're just wired for intensity. Your need for real-time connection isn't wrong. But remember, not everyone is built the same. Some people do need more space, more time, more quiet. The key is finding someone who can honor your fire without smothering it and without freezing in its heat. And Aries notices. They might not say anything right away, but they're taking mental notes. Every time their vulnerability is met with coldness or a shrug, their fire dims just a bit. Eventually, what was once passionate and intense becomes guarded and disconnected. In friendships, this dynamic can also create tension. An Aries friend is the one who hypes you up, checks in when you're down, and celebrates your wins like they're their own. But if that energy isn't returned, if their texts are ignored or their enthusiasm is met with indifference, they start to question the foundation of the friendship. And once doubt creeps in, Aries won't just simmer, they'll disappear. Even in casual interactions, Aries expects reciprocity. If they're excited about something, a new idea, a creative project, a last-minute road trip, and you respond like it's a chore or act like you couldn't care less, they take that personally. It feels like a rejection, not just of the moment, but of them. Let's be honest. This kind of emotional wiring can make Aries seem intense, and they are. But their intensity is also their magic. When they're all in, they're all in. They'll defend you, fight for you, and stand by you with unwavering loyalty. All they ask in return is engagement, real, raw, honest energy. If you're not up for that, Aries will sense it and back away. But if you are willing to meet them there, the connection can be electric. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. So when that Aries in your life reaches out, leans in, or shows up in full force, don't freeze, don't ghost, don't play it cool. Give them your warmth, your fire, even if it's just for a moment. Because to Aries, that moment means everything. And here's the twist. Aries doesn't just want attention. They want connection. They want to feel like you're not just physically there, but emotionally awake. That when they speak, you're really listening. That when they hurt, you notice. That when they care, it's not one-sided. This goes beyond words. It's body language, eye contact, tone. Aries picks up on all of it. You might say the right thing, but if your vibe is off, they'll feel it. And if they feel like your heart's not in it, they'll start to pull away, even if they don't want to. Because no matter how loud, fast, or fiery they are, Aries has a tender core, one that only opens when it feels safe and slams shut when it feels alone. Now that we've uncovered these two emotional landmines, passive-aggressive behavior and delayed emotional responses, you're probably wondering, what's next? Because the truth is, Aries isn't just set off by what people don't say or do slowly. Sometimes the wrong energy at the wrong time is all it takes to throw them completely off balance. And that brings us to the next two Aries triggers you absolutely need to understand if you want to keep the peace and keep them close. Number 5, constantly second-guessing or challenging their instincts. Here's the deal. Aries doesn't just do things. They throw themselves into things. They lead with their gut. They act on impulse. It's not because they don't think things through. It's because they trust their instincts more than logic sometimes. Their gut is their compass, and when it feels right, they go all in. So when someone, especially someone close, starts constantly questioning their choices, it feels like a personal attack. Now, we're not talking about healthy discussion or gentle concern. Aries can take a little pushback, especially if it's respectful. What drives them nuts is when it becomes a pattern, when every idea they bring to the table is met with hesitation, when every decision they make is second-guessed, when their confidence is chipped away little by little, disguised as just giving my opinion. To Aries, this doesn't feel like support. It feels like sabotage. It feels like someone poking holes in the boat they just built from scratch. They start to wonder, do you even believe in me? Or do you just enjoy watching me doubt myself? Let's take an example. Imagine Aries just decided to quit their job and start something new. They're fired up. They've done the emotional math. Even if they haven't mapped it all out on a spreadsheet, they're excited, motivated, focused. And then someone close to them says, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Followed by, "That's risky. then maybe you should wait. That may all be well-intentioned, but to Aries, that feels like someone trying to put the brakes on a rocket ship mid-launch. Aries thrives on risk. They live for the adrenaline of doing the thing everyone else says they shouldn't. They're not trying to be reckless. They're trying to feel alive. When someone starts dulling that edge, even gently, it feels like they're being asked to live someone else's life. And here's where it gets tricky. Aries may not say anything at first. They might nod. They might even smile. But inside, they're retreating. They're starting to guard their ideas. They're closing the door, just a little, because if they feel like their choices will always be met with doubt, they'll stop sharing their dreams. It can be even worse in relationships. Aries wants to feel like their partner is their #1 fan. Even when they're being a little wild, they want someone who says, "Hell yes, let's do it," not someone who always says, "Are you sure?" They're not looking for blind approval, but they do need energetic support. So if you love an Aries and want to offer input, here's the trick. Validate first. Say, "That's bold. I admire that." Then offer your thoughts, but keep it brief and neutral. Ask questions. Don't make judgments. Let them feel like you're helping them sharpen the sword, not trying to dull the blade. And if you're the Aries in this situation, know this. Not everyone who challenges you is trying to stop you. Some people are wired for caution. Try to recognize when it's love talking and when it's fear. Not every "are you sure" is a threat to your freedom. But if it feels like one, speak up. Let people know how you make decisions and what kind of support actually helps. Because for Aries, doubt is like a slow drip poison, and too much of it kills the fire entirely. Now let's move into a different type of trigger. This one isn't about action or feedback. It's about power, or more specifically, competition. Number 6, trying to outshine or dominate them. This might be the most classic Aries struggle of all. Aries is the alpha energy in the room, not always in a loud or showy way, but definitely in terms of presence, initiative, and willpower. So when someone comes in trying to one-up them, steal their thunder, or compete for dominance, it's go time. Aries isn't threatened by confidence. They love confidence. What they can't stand is ego battles disguised as banter. People who subtly try to undercut them. People who always have a better story, a bigger moment, or a louder reaction. That's when Aries' fire turns into a full-on flare-up. This isn't about jealousy. Aries wants everyone to win. They're usually the first to clap for you when you succeed. But when they feel like someone is constantly positioning themselves above them, trying to lead louder, shine brighter, or command the space they've carved out, it becomes a power struggle. In friendships, this often looks like playful competition gone wrong. One minute, you're joking about who can run faster or who got more likes on a post. The next minute, Aries is in full "I will destroy you" mode. Not because they're petty, but because they feel challenged. They weren't playing, they were winning, and they don't lose well. In work environments, this dynamic can be explosive. Aries likes to lead. If they're not the official leader, they'll lead from within. They like being the one with ideas, solutions, and forward motion. When someone starts pushing them out of that lane, especially in a way that feels sneaky or political, it triggers their inner warrior. They stop collaborating and start competing, and once they're in battle mode, it's hard to pull them back. In romantic relationships, this kind of tension can be subtle but deadly. Aries doesn't want a pushover, but they also don't want to fight for dominance every day. If they feel like their partner is constantly trying to win, whether it's in arguments, decisions, or even attention from others, they start to get restless. They want a partner, not a rival. So what works instead? If you want to be close to an Aries, let them shine. You don't need to shrink, but don't try to overshadow them either. Praise their strengths, celebrate their wins, and make space for their leadership. When Aries feels respected, they soften. They share the spotlight. But when they feel challenged, the claws come out. And if you are the Aries, remember, not everyone is trying to dominate you. Sometimes people are just being themselves. Big, bold, brilliant. It's okay to share the stage. You don't have to fight for every inch of light. Sometimes your power grows by letting others glow beside you. When Aries learns to lead without always needing to win, and when their people learn to support without needing to compete, that's when the magic happens. Because Aries doesn't need constant applause. They need genuine recognition. They need to feel like their fire isn't being snuffed out by someone else's ego. Here's something worth remembering. Aries doesn't mind sharing power. They just want to know they're respected in the room. When they feel secure in their place, they become the most generous, loyal, and encouraging people to have by your side. They'll lift you up, hype your wins, and fight your battles like they're their own. But the moment they sense that someone is subtly competing, trying to prove superiority, or challenging their sense of self, that's when the temperature rises. And once that happens, they often can't let it go until it's confronted. This is why communication is key. If you're someone who's naturally confident or assertive, be open with your Aries. Make it clear that you're not trying to overshadow them. A simple, "I love how driven you are," or "I admire how you take charge," goes a long way. Aries wants to feel seen for who they are, not put into a silent competition they didn't ask for. Likewise, if you're an Aries, it helps to pause and ask yourself, is this person really trying to take over? Or am I reacting to a perceived threat that may not be real? Self-awareness doesn't weaken your fire, it focuses it. And when you channel that energy into connection instead of conflict, you unlock Aries' highest strength, inspired leadership. Because underneath it all, Aries doesn't want to fight forever. They just want to feel free to be bold, to be first, to be themselves, without having to prove their worth in every room they walk into. Now that we've explored how Aries reacts to doubt and dominance, let's look at two more traits that throw them off balance in a completely different way. Number 7, telling them to calm down. On paper, it might sound like a helpful suggestion. Aries gets fired up easily. They speak with intensity, react fast, and when they're passionate, it's hard not to notice. So what's the natural thing most people say in response? "Hey, calm down." But here's the thing. Those two little words feel like a punch in the gut to an Aries. It's not just invalidating, it's infuriating. Telling an Aries to calm down is like telling a thunderstorm to be quiet. It doesn't work. It only makes the storm louder. Aries doesn't want to be told that their feelings are too much, because to them, that fire isn't drama. It's honesty. It's presence. It's how they show up in the world. When you tell them to calm down, what they hear is, "You're being irrational," or worse, "You're embarrassing," and nothing shuts them down or sets them off faster than feeling dismissed. This is especially dangerous in close relationships. Imagine Aries is venting about something that upset them at work. They're animated, pacing, using their hands, raising their voice, not at you, just in general. And instead of listening, you cut in with, "Relax, you're overreacting." Boom, emotional shutdown. They'll either snap back, storm out, or go cold. Because what they needed in that moment wasn't a referee, it was a witness. Aries doesn't expect everyone to match their fire, but they do expect people to respect it. They want to be heard when they're in the heat of something, not silenced. And here's the wild part. If you let them vent, just let them get it out without trying to fix it, they'll cool down on their own, fast. Aries doesn't hold on to things unless they feel invalidated. It's not the fire that burns, it's the cage around it. So what can you say instead of "calm down"? Try, "I hear you," or "That sounds like a lot. Want to talk it through?" Better yet, "You're fired up and that makes sense." That kind of language disarms an Aries. It tells them, your passion is safe here. And once they feel safe, the tension dissolves. The moment passes. If you're the Aries in this situation, remember, not everyone is trying to shut you down. Some people genuinely don't know how to handle strong emotion. Try explaining what you need. "I don't need advice, I just need you to hear me out." Or even, "Don't tell me to calm down. Let me burn it off and I'll be fine." The more self-aware you are about your own intensity, the easier it is to build relationships that honor it. Which brings us to the next reason Aries loses their cool, especially when they feel like their natural drive is being blocked or derailed by unnecessary drama. Number 8, negativity that drags them down. If Aries is fire, then negativity is cold, wet sand. It doesn't just irritate them, it smothers them. Aries thrives on momentum, excitement, and forward movement. They're the type to get an idea and run with it, to see a problem and try to fix it now, to make plans at midnight and follow through by morning. But if they're surrounded by people who constantly complain, hesitate, or shoot down ideas before they're fully formed, it wears them down, fast. It's not that Aries expects toxic positivity. They can handle reality. What they can't stand is people who seem addicted to the negative, the ones who find a problem for every solution, the ones who drain the energy out of every room. To an Aries, that kind of vibe is not just unpleasant, it's paralyzing. In friendships, this shows up when someone is constantly playing the victim or always focusing on what won't work. If Aries suggests, "Let's take a weekend trip," and the other person says, "I mean, what if it rains?" or, "Ugh, that sounds exhausting," the Aries won't fight you. They'll just go without you. Not because they're selfish, but because they need to move. They need to feel alive. They can't sit in that heavy, pessimistic energy without feeling like they're being pulled under. In work settings, it's even more obvious. Aries is a problem solver, a doer, a starter. When they are in environments where innovation is stifled by red tape or where every new idea is met with, "We've tried that before," it doesn't just annoy them, it defeats them. They begin to disengage, their fire dims. Even in romantic relationships, constant negativity can push Aries away. They want a partner who uplifts, who dreams, who dares. Someone who says, "We'll figure it out," instead of, "We probably shouldn't." Someone who sees the possibility, not just the pitfall. And yes, life is hard. Things go wrong. But Aries wants to face those challenges with passion, not fear. With courage, not constant complaint. If they feel like they're always dragging someone along emotionally, they'll eventually let go. Not because they don't care, but because they can't carry both people's weight forever. So what's the alternative? If you're someone who tends to be cautious or anxious, don't fake positivity. But do try to show curiosity. Instead of "That won't work," say, "How do you see that playing out?" Instead of "That's too risky," say, "What excites you about this?" Meet Aries in their world, even for a moment, and they'll meet you in yours when you need grounding. And if you're the Aries here, remind yourself that not everyone who's negative is trying to stop you. Some people just need time. Others need reassurance. And sometimes your fire can melt the ice around them if you don't let their chill put yours out first. Let's not forget, Aries has a heart that burns bright. When they commit to something or someone, they throw themselves in fully. So when they're surrounded by negativity, it's not just irritating, it's disorienting. It clashes with their core belief that life is about momentum, passion, and possibility. Here's something most people don't realize. Aries actually has a very tender inner world. They're sensitive to emotional climates. When there's too much pessimism, sarcasm, or defeatist energy around them, it starts to cloud their clarity. They begin to question their own spark. They wonder if maybe they are being unrealistic or reckless. And that doubt is like rust on steel. It eats away at them over time. One Aries put it like this: "I don't need people to cheerlead me 24/7, but I do need people to believe life can be better. I can deal with hard truths. What I can't handle is being told to stop dreaming." This is why it's so important for the people in Aries' life to balance realism with hope. Be honest, yes, but don't forget to reach for the horizon. Aries is always scanning the next mountain to climb. They're not content staying in one emotional place too long. They need the feeling of forward. And here's the beautiful part. When you match Aries' energy, even for a moment, something magical happens. You ignite something in them and in yourself. You stop circling the problem and start moving toward a solution. You stop fearing the fall and start chasing the flight. Aries brings that energy into every room they enter. They don't want to argue about what's possible. They want to live it. So if you catch yourself saying "but" to every idea or throwing cold water on every plane, pause and ask, am I grounding this conversation or am I draining it? Because Aries will only stay where their flame is allowed to burn. It all comes back to energy. Aries doesn't expect perfection. They expect presence. Show up, speak up, dream big. They want to feel like you're walking beside them, not dragging behind or pulling them back. And if you can't match their pace, At least don't block their path. Aries isn't trying to dominate the journey. They just want to keep moving forward with people who understand what forward feels like. When they find that, that's when their fire becomes unstoppable. And when we look at how they value space, independence, and personal freedom, well, the next two reasons take that fire to a whole new level. Number 9, getting in the way of their goals. Aries isn't just motivated. They are defined by movement, achievement, and the chase. They need a target, a mission, a reason to leap out of bed in the morning. And once they have that in their sights, they become unstoppable. So when someone, even unintentionally, stands in the way of that momentum, it doesn't just annoy them, it infuriates them. It could be something small, like interrupting their workflow with a meaningless task, or something huge, like discouraging them from pursuing a dream because it's too risky. Either way, Aries will feel boxed in, suffocated, and deeply disrespected. This is not about control, it's about purpose. Aries needs to feel like their life is going somewhere. They're not content with staying still. They don't want to wait and see. They want to build, conquer, win, create. The worst thing you can do is make them feel like their goals are silly, unrealistic, or inconvenient to you. In relationships, this shows up when a partner constantly needs their attention away from their projects, or when emotional drama derails their focus. Aries loves hard, but they will always make time for their mission. If they feel like they're being forced to choose between you and the thing that gives their life meaning, they'll choose the mission, not out of selfishness, but because it's part of who they are. In work settings, this trigger shows up fast. If a manager micromanages an Aries or delays progress with endless bureaucracy, they'll start looking for the exit. Aries is made for autonomy, for action, for results. They don't thrive in environments where their hands are tied and their ambition is questioned. Even in friendships, this need for forward motion plays a role. Aries is the friend with the ideas, the plans, the invitations. If you're constantly saying maybe, canceling last minute, or dragging them into drama instead of adventure, they start to lose patience. They want friends who move with them, not people who weigh them down. So how do you stay in sync with an Aries who's on a mission? Respect their goals, ask about their dreams, and actually listen. Be flexible with plans if you know they're grinding towards something important. Encourage their hustle, even if it doesn't always include you. When Aries feels supported in their ambition, they'll be more present in everything else. But if they feel blocked, questioned, or derailed, their frustration builds fast, and they may not stick around to explain why. Which leads us to another huge trigger, one that's more emotional but just as intense. Number 10, being too clingy or emotionally dependent. This one can surprise people, especially in romantic contexts. Aries is passionate, loyal, and often very affectionate. They fall fast, love hard, and aren't afraid to show it. But despite all that intensity, Aries deeply values independence. They need space to breathe, explore, and self-regulate. If someone becomes too emotionally reliant on them or starts to cling too tightly, they begin to feel smothered. It's not that Aries doesn't care. In fact, they care so much that they often attract people who are drawn to their energy and strengths. But when that admiration turns into emotional dependence, when someone starts expecting Aries to manage their moods, reassure them constantly, or be available 24/7, it drains them. Aries is a fire sign. Fire needs air. When there's no space, the fire burns out. In relationships, this often starts out as deep connection. The Aries loves being wanted. They love passion and intensity. But over time, if their partner becomes too emotionally needy, needing constant validation or reassurance, Aries begins to pull back. They don't like guilt trips, emotional manipulation, or pressure to always be there. They need to want to be there, not feel forced to stay. In friendships, this can show up when someone always needs to talk, vent, or unload, and never asks how Aries is doing, or when someone becomes jealous of other people in Aries' life, making them feel guilty for having a wide social circle. Aries needs freedom. They can be fiercely loyal, but not at the cost of their autonomy. Even family dynamics can trigger this. An Aries child or sibling who's constantly asked to check in, give emotional support, or always be around will feel caged, and they don't do well in cages. That's when they rebel. Not because they don't love you, but because they need to reclaim their sense of self. The key here is emotional balance. Aries loves connection, but not at the expense of their independence. They'll go all in with people who respect boundaries, maintain self-worth, and bring their own fire to the table. They don't want to be someone's whole world. They want to be part of a universe that's already spinning. If you're in a relationship with an Aries and you find yourself leaning on them emotionally, that's okay. Just be aware of how often. Do you give them room to breathe? Do you bring your own energy into the relationship? Or are you always looking for them to fill in your gaps? Because once Aries feels emotionally trapped, they either explode or escape. Now that doesn't mean you have to pretend to be emotionless. Quite the opposite. Aries loves people who feel deeply, but they need emotional strength. They need to know you can hold your own fire while they tend to theirs, that you can love them without depending on them to fix everything. And if you are the Aries, know your limits. Don't take on everyone else's emotional load. You're a warrior, yes, but you're not a sponge. Make sure your relationships give you as much space to exhale as they do opportunities to show up. You see, Aries isn't afraid of emotions. They just process them differently. They move through feelings the same way they move through life. Fast, intense, and with a desire to fix things quickly. So when someone lingers too long in an emotional space, especially a heavy one, Aries doesn't always know what to do. They want to help, but they also want to move forward. And when those two impulses clash, it creates tension. That's why the people who get along best with Aries are those who can self-soothe, self-reflect, and then come to Aries with clarity, not chaos. Aries will gladly support you, but they need to feel like you're in your own corner too. Otherwise, it starts to feel like emotional babysitting, and that's when the resentment kicks in. It's the same reason Aries thrives in relationships where both people have full lives outside of each other. If every moment is spent glued together, it becomes suffocating. Aries needs mystery. They need to miss you. They need space to pursue their goals without feeling guilty. The space makes their passion burn even hotter. Give them freedom and they'll return with fire. And the most amazing thing? When Aries feels emotionally safe and respected, when their goals are supported and their independence is protected, they show up with an unmatched level of love, loyalty, and action. They'll go to war for you. They'll champion your dreams like their own. But the moment they feel cornered or controlled, that devotion turns into distance. So if you want to keep the Aries in your life close, support their mission and trust their strength. Don't cling, connect, don't hover, believe in them. That's the energy they thrive in. That's where they feel seen. Because for Aries, life isn't just about feeling, it's about fueling. Fueling dreams, goals, motion, and meaning. If the relationships around them become too heavy, too tangled, or too dependent, they begin to feel like they're sinking. And Aries doesn't sink. They rise, they rush, they burn. So give them the room to rise, support their fire without smothering it, and they'll light up your life in ways you never imagined. And that brings us to two final triggers, ones that sneak up silently, but shake the very core of how Aries experiences time, energy, and purpose. Number 11, wasting their time. To understand this one, you have to understand how Aries experiences time. For them, time isn't just something that passes. It's an opportunity, a weapon, a currency. Aries treats every hour like a launch pad. They want to do, create, move, build. So when someone drags out a decision, cancels last minute, or leaves them waiting with no explanation, it doesn't feel like a minor inconvenience. It feels like a personal offense. Why? Because Aries doesn't sit still well, and they certainly don't tolerate delay when it's avoidable. They're constantly in motion, if not physically, then mentally. When that energy is stopped without reason, it creates tension. The fire builds up with nowhere to go. Imagine an Aries waiting for someone who's late to a meeting. 10 minutes turns into 20, no text, no apology. That Aries isn't just bored, they're boiling. They start replaying every other time their time wasn't respected. And by the time the other person shows up, Aries is ready to explode. Not because of the weight, but because of what it represents, that their energy wasn't valued. It's the same in relationships. If Aries feels like someone is stringing them along, indecisive, or dragging things out with no purpose, they check out fast. They'll give a little patience, especially if they care deeply, but not endlessly. If they sense that you don't know what you want, or worse, that you're wasting their time to avoid confrontation, they'll walk away with no warning. To them, indecision feels like betrayal, because Aries makes decisions fast, they commit hard, and they expect others to do the same. In friendships, this shows up when plans fall apart repeatedly, or when conversations circle the same complaints but never move forward. Aries can empathize, but they also want action. If every meetup turns into the same story with no resolution, they start feeling like they're trapped in a loop, and nothing makes them more restless than that. At work, time wasting is a deal breaker. Aries is results driven. If you hold unnecessary meetings, give unclear directions, or pile on bureaucracy, you lose them. They want streamlined action, not endless talk. They're problem solvers, not problem wallowers. So what's the fix? Be clear, be direct, be timely. If you can't make a plan, tell them. If you're going to be late, give a heads up. Aries doesn't expect perfection, but they do expect honesty and urgency. When you treat their time like it matters, they treat you with respect and loyalty. And if you're the Aries, understand that not everyone operates on your timeline. Sometimes what feels like stalling is actually processing. Sometimes the best move is a pause, not a push. Learn to spot the difference between intentional stillness and careless delay. You'll save yourself a lot of grief, which leads us into the final trigger, one that takes all the other frustrations, all the fire, all the energy, and asks, what do you do when it's all ignored? Number 12, not recognizing their effort. This one runs deep. Aries doesn't just take action for applause. They don't chase dreams to be praised, but that doesn't mean they don't want to be seen. Every risk they take, every boundary they break, every moment they show up and give more than required, it comes from a place of courage, of care, of love. So when that effort goes unrecognized, it cuts deep. It's not about needing a parade. It's about acknowledgement. Aries puts their whole self into what they do, into the people they love, into the things they build. And when that intensity is met with silence, it feels like invisibility. It feels like betrayal. In relationships, this shows up when Aries consistently goes the extra mile, plans the date, drives across town, makes things happen, and their partner barely notices. They don't need a trophy. They just need a thank you. You didn't have to do that, but I'm so glad you did. Without that, Aries starts to feel taken for granted. And once that feeling takes root, it doesn't go away easily. In friendships, this might look like always being the one to reach out, plan get-togethers, offer advice, and getting ghosted or brushed off in return. Aries is generous with their time and energy, but if it feels one-sided for too long, they'll stop giving. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. At work, it's the same. Aries will throw themselves into projects, innovate beyond expectations, and bring high energy to any room. But if their boss only points out mistakes, or colleagues take credit for their work, their passion disappears. Recognition fuels Aries. Without it, they burn out fast. So how do you keep that fire alive? It's simple. See them. Notice the little things they do. Say thank you. Compliment their effort, not just the outcome. Let them know you noticed the risk they took, the energy they gave, the courage it took to act. And if you're the Aries here, remember this. Not everyone shows appreciation the same way. Some people express gratitude quietly. Others assume you know how much they value you, even if they don't say it. If you need recognition, speak up. Ask for feedback. Let people know what fuels you, not as a demand, but as a request to connect more deeply. Because Aries doesn't need constant praise, but they do need to feel seen, noticed, respected, especially when they're giving all they've got. You see, Aries doesn't operate halfway. When they show up all the way. Their energy isn't filtered, diluted, or second-guessed. That's why they get so triggered when that same energy isn't respected, when it's overlooked, when it's brushed aside as just how they are. Because beneath all that fire is someone who's trying, constantly, to make something happen, to move the needle, to love with intensity, to live with passion, and that effort deserves to be acknowledged. This is especially true when Aries is vulnerable, when they take the first step, when they apologize first, when they open up emotionally, even if it's clumsy or intense. They're not always graceful, but they're real, and real is rare. So if they take a risk with you and it's ignored or dismissed, they don't forget it. It goes into a file called Never Again, and that file is permanent. What makes this even more complex is that Aries doesn't always ask for recognition. They won't always say, "Hey, I really need to know you saw that." Instead, they'll internalize it. They'll go silent, or they'll lash out over something seemingly unrelated, because what they're really reacting to is the feeling that their value isn't being reflected back. That's why awareness is so powerful with Aries. If you can tune in, notice the effort they're making, and show appreciation in your way through words, actions, time, or support, it builds trust. It tells them, "I see you," and that's all they want. To be seen not just for their fire, but for their fight, for their heart. So the next time an Aries pushes hard, speaks boldly, or takes the lead, don't just follow. Let them know it mattered, that it meant something, that they mean something. Because when Aries feels seen, their fire isn't just powerful, it's unstoppable. It all comes down to this. Aries doesn't need you to agree with everything they do. They don't expect you to match their pace, mirror their fire, or read their mind. But they do need to feel that their presence has impact, that their love, effort, and drive aren't falling into a void. When you give them that, when you reflect back their intensity with awareness, not resistance, you unlock their highest form. Not just the fighter or the leader, but the fiercely devoted partner, friend, or teammate they were born to be. And that brings us to the final part of this journey, where we wrap everything together and show you exactly how to use these insights to build stronger, more magnetic connections with the Aries in your life. So here we are. After diving deep into 12 emotional, personal, and sometimes painful truths about Aries, one thing is crystal clear. This sign isn't just bold and brave. They're deeply human. Fiery, yes. Impulsive, often. But underneath that tough, action-first exterior lies someone who cares more than they'll ever admit. We've seen how Aries reacts to being dismissed, controlled, slowed down, or misunderstood. We've uncovered the silent triggers, the missed thank you, the emotional weight that doesn't belong to them, the clinginess that makes them feel caged, the delays that make them restless. This final moment isn't about adding new information. It's about bringing it home, bringing it to you. Because chances are, if you've made it this far, there's an Aries in your life that matters. Or maybe you are the Aries, and you just wanted someone to finally explain what it's like to burn this brightly in a world that often tells you to dim it down. If you're close to an Aries, romantically, platonically, professionally, there's one rule that overrides everything else. Don't block their fire, fuel it. Aries doesn't expect you to be perfect. They're not waiting for flawless communication or drama-free relationships. What they want is connection that's real, energy that matches theirs, honesty that doesn't hide, love that doesn't limit. So here's a quick recap of what not to do, unless you want to drive an Aries up the wall. Don't dismiss their passion as too much. It's not too much. It's the purest form of who they are. Don't talk down to them or challenge them for the sake of control. Don't stifle their movement or block their goals. They are made for momentum. Don't cling to them emotionally while refusing to hold your own weight. Don't waste their time. Every second matters. And never, never ignore their effort. That's the fastest way to burn the bridge. But let's flip that. Want to keep your Aries close? Want to build something strong, magnetic, and unforgettable with them? Then do this. Be honest, even when it's hard. Respect their independence. Match their courage with your own. Notice what they do for you and say it out loud. Cheer them on when they're chasing something crazy. And when they fall apart, Remind them they're allowed to, but that you still believe in their fire. That's it. That's the code. Not because Aries is high maintenance, but because they live with a level of intensity that demands depth in return. They give a lot, so if you're lucky enough to be close to one, give back. Now, if you've been feeling every word of this, if this video helped you understand your Aries side or someone you love, then don't keep it to yourself. Seriously, drop a comment below. We want to hear from you. Are you an Aries? Are you dating one? Best friends with one? What's the craziest Aries moment you've ever witnessed? Share your story in the comments. We read every single one. And hey, if this video made you think, laugh, cry, or text an Aries just to say, "This is so you," then take one more step. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out our other videos on zodiac signs, compatibility, and personality secrets. There's a whole universe waiting for you right here on Secret of the Zodiac, and we're just getting started. But before you go, we want to ask for one more thing. From the heart, creating content like this takes time, research, editing, and a whole lot of passion. We do it because we love astrology. We love storytelling. We love helping people understand themselves and each other better. But we could do so much more with your help. If you believe in this work, if you want to support what we're doing and help us keep making deep, meaningful, daily content, consider sending a super thanks. It's a small donation you can make right here on YouTube. Just hit the thanks button below and choose an amount. Every little bit helps cover production costs, software, team time, and it means the world to us. Your support helps us keep this channel alive, passionate, and growing. More videos, more signs, more truths, and most importantly, more of the energy that brought you here today. So one last time, like, subscribe, comment, and if you're feeling generous, tap that super thanks button. You help keep this fire burning. And Aries loves you for it. We're building something real here. A community of people who aren't afraid to look deeper, to ask questions, to feel more. And if you're still watching, then you're part of that. So don't just watch, engage. Your voice, your story, your energy, it matters. Let's grow this together. Thank you for being here. Truly.